Determination gives you the resolve to keep going in spite of the roadblocks that lay before you. By Vegas_Jones. Hi! COVID tried to take me out, but God said no. COVID tried to take me out, but the ancestors showed up. COVID tried to take me out, I stand before you, a COVID survivor. Literally. Hello everyone, Happy New Year, welcome to 2022 and welcome to the first episode of 2022 Toy Talks podcast. I am so blessed to be recording this. I'm so blessed to be here. I'm so blessed to be able to deliver a brand new podcast episode. If you do not know who I am, this is your first time to the Toy Talks podcast, then where have you been, please? Because we have been in a whole pandemic. We have had COVID, yeah. We have had Christmas and we've had 2021 and we have had 2020. So where have you been? Use this opportunity to reacquaint yourself if you are returning listeners, or if you are brand new listeners, then just acquaint yourself with the previous episodes of the Toy Talks podcast. And if you are not sure what episode to start with, start from the beginning or read the summary box of each podcast episode, because I go into a lot of detail, enough detail to give you a flavour and a theme of each episode. So yeah, guys, I don't even know where to start. I don't. So I'm just gonna start from the beginning. The reason why you guys haven't received an episode over the last 2 weeks is because I had COVID. And for somebody who doesn't leave the house, and I say that, and I say leave the house with quotation marks because I do leave the house, i.e. I have a car. I'm not the type of person that just gets on the train. I'm not that person. I'm very strategic in how I live my life, especially as we all live in a current pandemic. And it's crazy because the launch of the stationery collection, which is the Black Women Are Winners stationery collection, I believe it was on the 18th, so Saturday the 18th of December, and it was around midday. So the Friday before, I wasn't feeling 100%, and it must have been late Friday night. I knew I had COVID, but every time I did an LFD test, it came back as negative. But I know my body really well. That's something I pride myself on. I pride myself on knowing my body. I know when something's wrong. I know when I've got a cold. I just understand my body. Because every month, like, my period is really bad. So I can differentiate between I'm unwell, I'm having a period, I'm unwell, I'm catching a cold, or I'm run down. This was different. And by about midday, the launch of the collaboration with the stationery, by later that evening, I had deteriorated really quickly and quite rapidly. I took a COVID test, but before I had done that, I was actually on Instagram, and Milena Sanchez from the Receipts podcast was talking about LFD tests, and she had had COVID, and the fact that, you know, she was in a situation with the COVID test where she was getting a false negative result. And then just that really resonated with me because I just knew that I had COVID. So 2 COVID tests later, I was positive. And it was, I don't know how to explain how I deteriorated so quick, but I deteriorated very quick. And Kay followed suit effectively. Within 24 hours, I was having breathing difficulties. I couldn't breathe very well. And Kay and I had already had a conversation about kind of what would happen if kind of anything happened to both of us. Like, if, you know, we were struck down with COVID, what would need to happen and things like that. But I was very clear that I did not want to go into hospital. On a normal day, the NHS don't take care of Black women. So what more going in with COVID, not being able to communicate because I'm having breathing difficulties, having to fully trust the NHS when they have failed me before. Could I take the risk of going into a hospital and running the risk that I may not come out? And I wasn't ready to run that risk. If I'm going to die, let me die in my house. Let me die in my house so people know what I died from. Yeah? The nights were difficult. The cold sweats, the hot sweats, the fever, the back pain, the pain behind my eyes, the aching of my legs. My whole body was riddled with this virus. And as the days progressed, I got worse, and I had no choice. I got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm not going to say anything on Instagram until I recover. But things got difficult because I was getting DMs, I disappeared. People generally cared. And also as well, I think where we had just had the collaboration release, I wasn't acting myself. And I think people could see that because I had just completely disappeared. Also as well, I could not record a podcast episode. So with that all in mind, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to say it. So I told people on social media, I've got COVID. And that's pretty much what I said. I couldn't go into much detail because I was in a lot of pain. Within 72 hours, my breathing became a lot better. I stopped lying on my back. I lied on my side so that when I'm coughing, I'm not putting pressure on my ribs, my lungs. Equally as well, lying on my front wasn't helping me, so I had to lie on my side. Anyway, fast forward, I have tested negative for COVID. I'm feeling a lot better, and my taste and smell has completely gone. I have no sense of taste, I have no sense of smell. And if you know anything about me, that is like, even as I'm saying it, I'm actually quite upset about it because I really love food. I really love food. I used to be a fat bird, and I say fat bird because I've lost a significant amount of weight, but we'll get onto that a bit later. And part of the experience of food is the smell. It's our senses. I'm a coffee drinker. I love the experience of smelling coffee, smelling the coffee beans and understanding the aromatic aroma of coffee. Like, I'm a very passionate person about food, drink, coffee, you name it. And that's completely gone. I have no sense of smell. I don't know if I smell of body odor. I don't know if my vagina is smelling. I don't know if behind my ears I'm smelling. I don't know shit. I just know that throughout having COVID, I still got up and I asked Kay to help me, and I'd go to the shower and I would shower and Kay would help me because I was in so much pain. Kay would help bathe me because I was in so much pain. So he would be like, don't worry, it's going to be fine. I was like, no, because I ain't smelling for nobody. Bearing in mind, Kay had COVID as well, but his symptoms weren't as bad as mine. His was more cough. And I would say that based on all the knowledge that we've acquired over the last few weeks, I definitely think we had two different variants. I definitely think I had Delta and Kay had Omicron. And that's quite strange to say because we live in the same household, but our symptoms were completely different. Kay had a persistent cough. My cough wasn't as bad, if that makes sense. It felt like just like a tickly throat. Kay had a full-on cough, mucus in his chest type cough. I've lost my sense of taste and smell. The body aches, everything lends itself to more of the Delta variant. And the thing is, when you test positive for COVID, the assumption is whatever variant is dominating at the time is the variant you have. But they can't actually differentiate what variant you do have, but you can base it on the symptoms you have that lend itself to each variant, right? And obviously Kent variant seems to have disappeared. Was they calling it the South African variant? That's disappeared. You know, it's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, to add to all of that, like I said, I have tested negative for COVID. So I'm having the long symptoms of the no taste, no smell. I do sometimes feel a bit spaced out. I do get quite tired. And my body has gone through so much, and my immune system has taken a massive knock. So I definitely think, as my friends have continuously said to me, give yourself grace. Now, there was a lot of people who reached out to me in my DMs who had COVID. And there was this one particular young lady, and she lived on her own. I made it a point of messaging her every single day because, you know, she shared some things that were quite personal, but she was on her own. I did place an order at a particular supermarket to send her some things because she was on her own. And one thing is for sure, I may have had COVID, but my thumbs didn't. Okay, my thumbs were still working. So, and it was kind of sweet as well because it was almost like there was like a few women within my DMs. We all had COVID, and I was checking on them, they were checking on me. And it was nice to kind of have that, if that makes sense, because they would, we would give each other tips. And I would say to them, if you know 2 or 3 people that have COVID, do the same for them as I'm doing with you and you're doing with me type thing. So that was actually really quite nice. Also as well, I think having COVID put a lot of things into perspective, because I had a lot of time to think about myself, think about my life. And I got to see how people reacted in terms of like people who actually know me. And I wasn't disappointed per se, because people did what I thought they would according to their character. I definitely think I have amazing friends. Bimpe, Lisa, Franny, Dee, to name but a few. Vanessa, and these are just a few names that have come into my head. Please, I do have COVID brain as well, so I do have that COVID fog. So yeah, that's another thing that I'm challenged with a little bit. And I started this podcast episode and I was slightly nervous because I was like, say if it doesn't flow the way it normally does because I have fog brain. And then I said to myself, do you know what? Just say it. Just tell people you have fog brain, and sometimes you are going to stop and you are going to pause. And the power of editing is amazing as well. So yeah, so that's been my experience. And I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I was very angry because I had a plan of what would happen over Christmas, of the content that I would put out, of the podcast episodes that needed to come out, that was imperative, I felt, ending 2021. And I had built in some time to have a break as well. And, you guys know I'm vlogging as well. So I wanted to upload content because I upload bi-weekly. And all of that just ground to a halt. It just stopped. Work just stopped. Everything stopped. I could do nothing. And it was probably the hardest experience because there was nothing I could do. And I'm not used to being in a position where there's nothing I can do. And the sense of helplessness, the sense of disappointment as well, because there were family members that knew that I was bad and they did not show up for me. And that's fine. That was fine. And it was fine to be angry because I couldn't do certain things. That was fine as well. Because there's nothing like COVID that will give you perspective. COVID gave me a lot of perspective and it gave me time to think. I watched everything that I could possibly watch on Amazon Prime and on Netflix. And yeah, TikTok was brilliant because I would sit there with my thumbs having repetitive strain injury, watching TikToks, and all I could do was drink water and water-based fruits. So for example, grapes and tangerines were the only things I could eat. I couldn't eat anything. The thought of having anything outside of that made me physically sick. I had no coffee. I've only literally started drinking coffee over the last couple of days, and that's out of habit rather than taste and smell, because I can't taste and smell it. It's out of habit, and I know what coffee does to my body. It does wake me up. And I'm hoping, based on something that I read, that if you have the things that you like, so if you eat and drink the things that you like, your mouth has memory, so it will encourage your mouth to start remembering how that tastes and smells. I don't know how true that is, but I'm doing it anyway. And that kind of leads me on to the COVID diet situation. So as I started getting a bit better, I was still testing positive at this point. But I just noticed that my body was very different, right? So I think when I started noticing this, it was a bit difficult because I didn't know whether this was part of the fever of COVID or whether this was happening, because at one point I didn't realise that Christmas had passed. My brain was a mess. So I tested negative for COVID. I can't remember the date now. And as much as possible, I tried to vlog. And that's the other thing. My vlogs are crazy because depending on where the pain was is depending on where the camera was angled. And I recorded up until the 24th of December, and then I just stopped because I think that's when it got bad, like for me anyway. And I went into the shower And it didn't feel as though the shower was trying to beat me up, because at one stage, getting in the shower was a lot. And I looked down. Guys, I saw my vagina. I saw the top of my vagina. It wasn't like I had to lift my stomach to see my vagina. I said, hey! Beach body. Beach body is bodying. You guys know back home we use that sponge. You know the long one that we use back home, the net. I call it a sponge, but you know what I mean. It's a long net. So my one is quite long because I had a lot of body to cover. My sisters, I want you to explain to me, usually when I have to wash my back, yeah, it's like I have to dislocate my shoulder because there's a lot of fat to get past to get to my back. These times now, it was just easy. I didn't feel any pressure. I now got the net on my back. Usually it's stiff, innit, when I'm doing my back because my back was wide. These times the net is moving freely. I said, excuse me? So I come out the shower. I go on the scales. Now, I'm going to put my hand up. You guys know, I'm always going to give it to you straight. You guys know this. So the most of 2021, I weighed 92 kg. There was one day I was 93 kg, and that was because I had Eba. That day was Eba day. Yeah? 92 kg is how much I weighed. If you see me in person, I'm 5'4", but I'm short now. I'm not. And if you look at my frame, you can see that I'm not actually supposed to be big, if that makes sense, because I'm quite short. So any added weight, I am going to look fat. So when I went on these scales now, the thing started saying 80 something. I said, what's all this? It said 85 kg. I said, hey, COVID, is this you? I haven't seen 80 something since, I don't know, 2020. I ain't seen that. I said, what? I then came into the front room, into the bedroom, and I looked at myself in the mirror and I could not recognize my body. And I think it's because I had spent a lot of time trying to lose weight and failing. And you know I hate the F word, but yeah. And now I'd lost all this weight. So I wanted to share that with you guys, just to give you context about where I have been and to encourage you guys to follow me on my social media if you don't, because I am likely to post on Instagram. That is kind of like my preferred social media outlet of choice. I really like Instagram. So if you come onto the platform, there's no podcast, go onto Instagram. There's a reason. But at the same time, I'm very consistent with the content that I put out. So every Tuesday you get a new episode. So if something is out of character, there's something wrong. And this is often what I found in being consistent, that people are able to measure you based on your consistency. So if something is inconsistent to what people are used to, the automatic approach is, are you okay? Well, that's for some people. I did have a young lady reach out to me in my DMs, and after I had announced I had COVID, and she said, oh, I've ordered stationery. Does that mean I'm not going to get my stationery on time? And I said to her, you do know I've got COVID? She goes, yeah, I know. Now, if you go on my website, I make it really clear, like when you're buying something, you can't even proceed to checkout until you tick a box that accepts that dispatch would be 8th of January 2022. And then on your receipt, it would say the same thing. You see, I'm very communicative. I'm dyslexic. So for me, it's important for me to make clear information. So I've told you in December that I've got COVID, and all you care about is making sure you get your stationery on time, and it's still December. We're not even touching January yet. And one thing you're never going to do is come on my platform and disrespect me, because I don't disrespect nobody. You don't know what condition I'm in. Nothing. And you don't have to care, and that's fine. But what you are not going to do is disrespect me while I sit in my condition that you're aware of. So I said to her, what's your order number? She gave it to me, and I hit the refund button with the whoa. She got a nice little refund. Then she messaged me back and she said, Toya, I can't believe you've done this. I said, I do. Please screenshot and please reshare. I said, you have no right, none whatsoever, to question me and question my business and question when I'm going to dispatch, when I've made it clear exactly when I'm going to do that. What you are never going to do is disrespect me. I don't need your custom. Take your refund. We have to learn how to deal with people. If you lack the social skills to know how to interact with people, then you need to work on that. But what you cannot do is, because you have access to social media, is think that you can disrespect people just because. Because you couldn't say that to my face. You wouldn't go to somebody who you know has COVID and say, hey, you, I know you're there on your deathbed visiting the hell every day, but are you going to send me? You wouldn't do that. So don't let over familiarity put you in a situation where you get a refund that you haven't banked for. Moving on. So, as I mentioned, obviously I've had COVID and I managed to email work, and it was literally like around 5 a.m. I mustered up the energy to be able to email work and say, listen, I've got COVID. I can't work. I can't move. I'm using the last energy I have to send this email. I'd taken a picture of the COVID test that had positive on it. And I made it very clear that I am very sick. And I don't know, shall I read it out to you guys? Let me read out what I sent. Hi, Deborah. And then I CC'd in people that work on the project with me, so people in my team, in my immediate team. Hi, Deborah. I apologize for the early writing of this email, but it's important that I communicate with you that I have tested positive for COVID. Please find a picture of my LFD test kit to confirm this. I am extremely unwell, unable to bend, stand up, pain at the back of my eyes, chest is hurting, suffering from slight breathing difficulties that are currently manageable, however unable to concentrate, sit up straight, or do anything. COVID has rendered me bedridden. For the purposes of communication, it's taking me all the strength that I have to write this email to you. The best that I can offer is contact via my phone. Please contact me via text, as I have my work phone by my bed. I apologize for any inconvenience that my absence may have caused, but my health comes first. Please can I ask that this is kept confidential? However, if there is a need to share this information, I would appreciate it if you can check with me first before doing so. I wish you all the best. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I'm off to fight COVID. So I sent that off. And literally within 15 minutes, and this, I've got a work phone, right? So within 15 minutes, I've got messages from people in my immediate team that I'm working on this particular project. So I hate to say they report in, because they don't report into me, but I manage this particular project. So they all feed into me. Okay, fine, they report into me. Do you know what it is? It's because I hate the idea of line management. I'm not interested in it. Do you know what I mean? But, most of the decisions on my project come through me before they go to Deborah. So it was important for me to put them on copy so they're aware that I'm going to need them to rely on everything I've taught them, and I need them to show up and get the work done and do what needs to be done. So within 15 minutes, I was getting text messages on my work phone. I had responses, and my boss, Deborah, she said, Toya, don't worry. We've got this. If we need you for anything, I'll message you, but no one will message you. She's like, I do want to tell the entire team that you have COVID, because people rely on you for a lot of things, and people will be worried about where you are. You're always there for everybody. You work so hard and you're so diligent. Equally, you are a subject matter expert, and therefore people may be relying on you for certain information. So are you happy for me to share that? So I said yes, but as long as you provide context that it's not kind of COVID, I've got a cold, it's COVID, I'm bedridden. And she was like, yeah, don't worry about it. So as the day progressed, I knew when Deborah had told the team, because then I started getting more messages from people. And for me, you guys know how I see work. Like, work is work, yeah? I'm a consultant at the end of the day. My mindset is as such that I deliver, I work to the best of my ability. I'm a subject matter expert and I get paid. Full stop. You see all that warm and fuzzy stuff? I'm not that person at work. I found the balance between being personable without oversharing. I found the balance between being personable without allowing people to feel too comfortable and therefore people infiltrating my boundaries. I found that balance and I believe that I do it very well. So you can imagine then that I'm not, listen, I approach work without many expectations, if any at all, because we know as Black women, when we tell people we are unwell, they do not understand it in the same way that non-Black people will tell them they're unwell. So for example, our white counterparts, if a white woman says she has COVID, they are doing electronic cards, they are sending flowers to her house. Like, do you understand? As Black women, we know that that is not the response we're going to get. In fact, what we're going to be told is they want daily updates. What we're going to be told is, can you get a doctor's note? What we're going to be told is, when are you coming back? Are you back tomorrow? We're not afforded the same responses that our white counterparts or our non-Black counterparts are afforded. So when we are sick, we are almost having to calculate how we can be sick and have peace at the same time. I remember a dilemma, and I think you guys will remember a dilemma. A young lady reached out to me and basically said she had COVID and her boss is basically harassing her and asking her daily when she's going to come back into work. But she didn't handle that situation very well. You need to set the stall out really clearly. You've heard how I sent my email. It's very clear. I'm non-contactable. I'm uncontactable for work-related things. Yeah? But I'm contactable if you want to send me a text message now and again to ask me certain things to do with work. As and when I will respond. But if you expect me to work, I'm not doing that. And I afforded my boss that because I have that relationship with her where she respects me a lot. I respect her a lot. And there's no way that I would leave my boss in the lurch. So if there is a question that only I have the answer to, I've given her permission to ask me that question. But it's about how you manage that and understanding your manager and how you interact with them. There are some managers in the past that if I'm working and I had COVID, I'm uncontactable, unreachable, full stop. I won't be telling you if you've got any questions, send me a message. I wouldn't be doing that, I'll tell you that much. But because I know how my boss is, my boss bossed. And she told, and this is what now I'm being told, she made an announcement. Toya is not to be contacted. She has COVID and it's bad. If you have any questions to do with anything to do with Toya's project, or something that she's managing outside of the project, whatever it is, it goes through me. And then I will manage how that information is then communicated back to you. What she's saying is, I'm Toya's gatekeeper. If you want anything, come to me. And it doesn't go above my head that is not the experience of everybody, because I've had evil, toxic bosses. Yeah? So my boss is one of those people that she knows me and she knows my character. You see, I'm cashing in on all those late nights. I'm cashing in on bending over backwards and being able to deliver on time. I'm cashing in on being consistent at work. I'm cashing in now because now I have no choice. I'm bedridden. I can't do anything. I'm cashing in on my consistency. I'm cashing in on everything I teach you guys about how to navigate the world of work. I'm cashing in this role. And as a result of cashing in, as a result of consistency, my boss has stepped up. Now, let it not fly over anybody's head that if you want to see a manager and the worth of a manager, when you're sick, you'll see how they behave. If they act as though you cannot be sick, then you know you're dealing with somebody who is deplorable, doesn't have a heart, and equally does not give a shit. There's ways of managers that they can display not giving a shit without making it obvious they don't give a shit. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, do you guys remember a couple of episodes ago, I told you that there was a guy, a white man, he started within the team, and he put time in my diary. You know, one thing about my boss is it's almost like she wants us to meet all these new people so that they know who is who, but equally they're aware that as consultants, some of us are quite senior. So I think my boss sees it as, you let them know that you're senior so they understand how this team works. And I feel like my boss puts that on us a lot. And people that come into the team are mad because they're coming with preconceived ideas. They're coming in like, Bob will fix it. No one's asked Bob to fix shit. Why are you doing this? But it's part of that takeover spirit that these white men, because I'm in a white dominated industry, that these white men come in, and when they see a black woman in a senior position, it really shakes the core of who they are. They don't understand. And it's almost like they say it without saying it. Because this same white man, and I think we're going to call him Graham. I think his name was Graham. I think that's the name I gave him. He called me disingenuous. He called me disingenuous, not because he thinks I'm disingenuous, because I don't even think that he has the grammatical capacity to understand what disingenuous means. I think he just said it out of frustration because he felt as though I should be bending over backwards for him because he's a white man, and that's never going to happen. I will be buried 6 feet under before that happens. That's not going to happen. So this same man that called me disingenuous, I was waiting for him to come and tell Deborah. Remember, I told you guys I was waiting. Because you know what cussing someone out is? I professionally cussed him out without actually cussing him. I told him, do you understand what disingenuous means? How dare you? How dare you call me a name that doesn't belong to me? Who do you think you are? Listen, I ripped him a new one. And then I hung up the Teams message. So fast forward now, my boss has announced to everybody that I've got COVID. So stay away from me, is what she's saying. Do you know that Graham sent me an email? Graham sent me an email, and I'm going to read it to you. Hi, Toya. I've heard the unfortunate news that you have COVID. This is so sad, and it sounds quite serious. However, I hope you get better soon. But, did you hear that what I said? But, there is a issue happening on my contract, and I want to know if you're having the same issue on your contract. Can you please provide me the following information? Kind regards. Do you know I sent an email back? Yeah. You see, let me make something clear to you guys. This white man is being told that this black woman has COVID. So he knows this. And it is a race thing. It is. Because if I was a white woman, I guarantee you that this man would not email me. This man has been on me since he started because I am the only black woman on my team outside of my boss. My boss is mixed race, identifies as black. I'm the only black woman on my team. So you can imagine now that this man, having called me disingenuous, I've put you in your place, waiting for you to tell my boss so that we can deal with it. You know you can't go to my boss and say this because I've ripped you out a new one and you're going to have to justify to my boss what makes me disingenuous when I'm telling you something to do with a contract or something to do with my contract or questioning you about why you've put this meeting in my diary. I'm asking you why you've put this meeting in my diary. You're calling me just disingenuous. Doesn't even make sense. So already you know I'm not the one to play with. But now somebody has told you they have COVID, yet you still don't find it in yourself to just leave this person alone. What is it about non-black people who refuse to see black women as human? What is it? It's rooted in racism. It's rooted in slavery, in our history. That's what it's rooted in. Because you see, come rain or shine, come rain or shine or sickness, we know as black people, our ancestors still had to show up. They had no choice. There was no choice. So fast forward now, where we are now working in white constructs. It's almost as though these people think that the sickness policy doesn't apply to black people. Because if it applies to us, listen, whether you're a contractor, fixed term, whatever, sickness, the view of what sickness is applies to us. That you have the right to take time off. You do. If you are unable to work, yeah, there's a risk of health and safety. You could be emailing somebody in your sickness and it go to the wrong person and actually bring the company into disrepute. This is what people are not thinking about here. When people are unwell, because we're human beings and we have blood running through our veins, we have a heart, we have lungs, we have intestines, we are human. But I don't know what it is about white people, non-black people, but for the context of Graham, this white man that refuses to see me as a human being. And I'm not taking the shit. I don't care. COVID, strike me, my thumb will still be able to type. I wrote back to him. Dear Graham, as you are aware and have clearly identified in your email, I have COVID. What is it about having COVID that you are not understanding in this situation? You are asking me questions about something I cannot help you with. Where you have gone wrong is everything that you have written after the word but. And then I copied and pasted what he wrote after the word but, and I bolded it. Please, can you refrain from contacting me? Please, can you refrain from antagonizing me? Please, can you refrain from attempting to harass me in the depth of my sickness? Please, can you refrain from all communication with me? I copied my boss. I copied, there's another senior person in the team. I copied that person there and I sent it. Do you know this man emailed me back? It is a shame that you're unwell. My boss responded to him, Graham, I think you need to pay attention to the detail in Toya's initial email to you. Full stop. These people are always on violence. Always on violence. That's violent. How can you're not even told by the person that they have COVID. You're told by the director of this team. And yet, you still can't find the capacity to give grace. Do you now understand, my fellow queens, why when it's time to be sick, you have to be sick? They're expecting you to email them every day. There are non-black people that do not have the capacity to understand that as black women, we suffer from sickness too. If you are looking for compassion with these people, I'm sorry, it is not a given. Not all of them have compassion. And I think as black women, we need to be clear about how we deal with these situations where we're incapable of working and we are in a job. Do you know, for me, if I could have changed anything, I would say that maybe I shouldn't have responded to his email. But do you know why I had to? Because when this man emailed me, he wasn't emailing me just because I was sick. He was emailing me still from the previous situation where he called me disingenuous, because he hasn't had the opportunity to do shit, because he knows that if he tries it, I will deal with him. He knows that he can't justify his initial interaction with me, and he feels shame and he feels vengeful. That email that he sent to me is celebrating my COVID. He's happy I have COVID. He's enjoying it. After all, if you know how someone has COVID, why would you email them anything other than get well soon? Why? But you see, we know as black women, we have to stay on 10 toes. We have to stay on 10 toes. Because now that I am recovering from COVID, I'm going back into work. This is going to be the same man that expects me to acknowledge his email. And what I can't do is expect anyone to have my back. I've got to have my own back. You see, what this Graham doesn't realise he's done He's given me emails to put in the burn folder. And even in my sickness, my thumb rotated all his emails into the burn folder. So not only did you call me disingenuous, even in my sickness, you sent an email and he sent it directly to me. He didn't copy anybody else in. Did my boss not make it clear that all communication must go through her? My boss even put it in an email because these lot forwarded it to me. So the question is, why are you on my neck? There's a pattern of behavior. There's a pattern of violent behavior towards me. And I now have to question the reason why. Even in sickness, you have to still be building that burn folder. If you are expecting grace, because I definitely feel that anytime I get dilemmas that have related to COVID, it's almost as though not all of you, but you know what I mean, the proverbial you all, are expecting grace. If they don't see us as human, why do you think that they'll give us grace during a global pandemic? And I don't even think it's a case of, oh, maybe they haven't had COVID, so they don't have empathy. You could say to them that you're falling down the stairs. They will still ask you, are you coming into work tomorrow? You can tell them that you were walking past scaffolding and the scaffolding fell down on your head. And they will ask you, okay, do you think you can get me a doctor's note to prove that? These people do not have basic compassion for black women. And if you know that, you have to manage yourself very well. Not now that you're sick. Someone's telling you, can you email me every day? No, I can't. You need to be able to know how to say no. Unfortunately, I cannot email you every day. It's taken me all the energy that I have to email you now. Some of you are working in organizations that have never even seen your sickness policy before. You've never seen it before. Let me tell you something that I do. Obviously, I'm a consultant. So it works slightly different for us. We don't work, we don't get paid. But here's my boss telling me, make sure you invoice me for everything, because at the end of the day, you're still looking at your emails. Yes, that's how my boss does. Any organization I go to, even though I'm a contractor, the habit is still there. I download the sickness policy. There's certain policies, I just put them in a folder. I may not even read them in full. I may scan them, but I put them in a folder. Because I've told you guys before, human resources is not there to resource the humans. They're there to resource the organization and protect the organization. So half of them don't even know what their policies say. So when you're expecting them to apply their policy, they're like full stop. They don't know. You need to start acquainting yourself with these things. Get the sickness policy put in a folder. When you are telling your psychotic boss that you're sick, attach the sickness policy. Attach it. I'm going to now share something else with you. Did you guys know that as of the 10th of December 2021, you can self-certify for 28 days? Before, it was only 7 days. So what I mean by that is, if you were sick for over 7 days, you had to get a doctor's note. Yeah? If you were sick for less than 7 days, you could self-certify. So basically, you won't need a doctor's note. You could just, go into work and just say, yes, I've been ill. And then they may ask you to fill out a form online or whatever it is, but you won't need to then evidence your sickness. Whereas over 7 days, you would have to get a doctor's note of some sort. Now, we all know that because of the pandemic, GPs, it's just our whole world has changed. You can't get a doctor's appointment, and if you do, they will ask you 1,001 questions before they allow you to come into the doctor's surgery. And obviously, there's so much pressure on the NHS and the GPs that they've had to alleviate that stress. Otherwise, can you imagine everyone getting sickness notes after 7 days? How many people have had COVID or currently have COVID? That's a lot of sickness notes, a lot of phone calls, and that's a lot of GP visits. And they just don't have the capacity and the bandwidth to be able to accommodate people. So the law has changed temporarily. So you can self-certify up to 28 days. That means you could be sick for 28 days and you just have to you can self-certify. You don't need a doctor's note. Now, if you expect the human resources to share that information with you, they're not going to. So please go on the gov.org website to go and find that information, because it's there. It's there. I'll try and find the link for you guys and put it in a summary. And I'm talking about the UK here. So what I'm going to encourage my international listeners to do is go and look on your governmental website to see how sickness and self-certification works within your country, because I suspect it is similar, because the pressures on GPs are the same. The effects of the pandemic are the same. So a lot of people who have been emailing me, a couple of the dilemmas that I've addressed on the Toy Talks podcast previously, your managers are asking you to update them every day. You don't actually have to do that. Full stop. But even less so now that you self-certify up to 28 days. In my previous roles, how I self-certified would be you'd go into a system, so almost like a HR platform, and you have to put your return to work, and it asks you to leave any notes. And in the notes, you would say, I had a positive COVID, and I'd even write the symptoms and leave it at that. You don't have to prove it. Now, if it's over 28 days, you're going to have to get a doctor's note. But the change in the law, the change in sickness and self-certification is as such that it's given you more flexibility as the person who is sick to allow you to be ill and to recover. Your managers, I'm telling you, half of you lot's managers are not even qualified to do their job. They're not even qualified to cross the road because they don't even know what the red, amber and green mean when they're crossing the road. So if you expect them to give you any grace, and that grace to include this information I've given you, that's not going to happen. And this is why I take this platform so seriously. This is why when people attempt to plagiarize my content, I get very angry. Because I genuinely, and you guys know my heart, I love my fellow Black queens. And for me, if I'm able to provide a platform that gives you the tools to navigate the world of work, that also gives you that protection as you're navigating work and gives you the tools, the actual tools that you can use, that is a win for me. That is a win for me. I have so many DMs, so many emails of you guys telling me how the platform has transformed your working career. Absolutely transformed it. From the way you think about the world of work, the way you approach it, your mindset. When you're armed with information, you're armed with the tools to be able to go into the world of work, be a minority and be successful. And success means different things for different people. But for me, success is being able to achieve my goals and objectives in a particular role. That's success to me. Success is growing in finances, entering a different tax bracket, being able to do more than what my parents did. Hence why they gave me as much as possible, everything that they could do, so that I wouldn't have necessarily the life that they did. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when you guys are looking for grace in people who have never given us grace, that doesn't even make sense. Because I'm telling you right now, I'll be shocked. How many of your HR departments have told you about the sick leave policy change? They've not told you. The government haven't announced it. No one said anything. You have to seek this information. So as much as possible, every time you listen to the Toy Talks podcast, you have to learn something from here. You've got to. If you're not learning anything, then don't waste your time. Because here at the Toy Talks podcast, we're here to learn. We're here to grow and we're here to be successful, because every Black woman in the world of work, irrespective of the job or the industry, has the potential, the capacity to be successful. You just have to give people the information. I'm giving you the blueprint. I live by the things I teach you. Imagine I have cultivated a situation. I've been off for 2 weeks and my boss is telling me still invoice me for the 2 weeks. Because I've been consistent. Because I've delivered. I am a subject matter expert because I made the sacrifices required to understand my industry and what I do inside out. This is not hearsay. This is a fact. I know what my day rate is. This is the highest day rate I've ever earned in my entire career. So I'm doing something right. When you understand the mechanics of the world of work, when you understand as Black women how they see us, you will move accordingly. You will navigate strategically. How is somebody telling an employer that you're sick and they say, yeah, you need to update us every day? Well, I might as well be at work then. You have to set those boundaries. So when you are sick, some of you are asking permission to be sick. That's crazy. Listen, I'm not going to lie. We all skive. Listen, in my 20s, I was Skiver the Guyver. Hey, call me Skiver the Guyver. Me, I was a very naughty girl. Skiver the Guyver. That was my name. However, what about the genuine times when we are sick? What about it? You're asking your boss permission to be sick, whilst there's a policy change that says that you self-certify up to 28 days. Who is the winner here? Is it not you? You see me, how I would manage this. You see the letter that I just told you guys, I've read it out to you. I said letter, but the email that I read it out, that I sent to my boss. Let that be the blueprint of how to inform your employer that you're sick. Be sick. Then if you know that your employer is mad, you go on the Gov website and attach the link. That's what you do. You go and take a picture of that COVID test. You put it there. Remember, you don't have to do these things. But as Black women, we understand we have to pattern ourselves differently, because our non-Black counterparts, they will just say they're sick and everybody will start sending virtual flowers, virtual cards, virtual emojis. They will be sending. We don't necessarily have that grace because we are not given the ability to be sick and we're not seen in the same way. Fragility does not apply to Black women in the world of work, because white people, non-Black people, do not see the fragility in us because they dehumanize us. So why then are you expecting them to see the fragility of how you are in your sickness? They're not going to. You have to learn how to use provocative words. Re-listen to the email I sent my boss. It's taken all my energy to be able to email you this. I sent that email at 5 a.m. in the morning. Context, baby. I couldn't sleep. So I might as well send it to you at 5 a.m. So when you're reading it, you can't come tell me nothing. I'm sick and I sent it at 5 a.m. Is that a normal thing to do if someone's ill? I set the boundary, the parameter. I can't work. I'm not going to work. And I will be back when I'm back. Oh, in a few days' time, could you let us have a progress? If I'm able to, I will. And then you make a judgment call. And even if you're going to send an update, keep it short. It's a 1-line, 2-line maximum thing. You guys are writing fucking paragraphs, effectively saying to them, I'm fit for work. I'm fit to come back. If you're going to be sick, if that's the narrative, lean into the narrative. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, moving on. Moving on. I definitely think that there's a lot of people who are anxious about going back into work, especially if you didn't work over the Christmas period. And I think part of it is because you've spent a lot of time kind of disengaging from work and just kind of focusing maybe on family or focusing on the festive period or anything other than work. And then when you think about work, depending on your environment that you work in, you build up this anxiety, you build yourself up to whatever it is that you're going to have to face at work that you were facing before Christmas. And that can lead to really bad anxiety. And I understand that 100%. Because I used to be the person, especially in my 20s, whereby I would strategically take certain time off so that I had a lot of time off, if that makes sense. So I'd take the day before a bank holiday, the day afterwards, strategically, so that I could really maximize my off days. And during the Christmas period, that was the same thing. And what it did is it set me up in a way, because I had time to think about all the things I didn't like about where I worked at the time. And I had a lot of time to think about the changes I need to make to be able to make my situation better, but feeling that dread of returning back to somewhere that I didn't want to return. And that in itself can be quite soul destroying, because especially if you haven't got a plan. A lot of people still now, after all the episodes that I've produced for the Toy Talks podcast, still don't have a plan for their career. You are the architect of your career. You are. So if you don't like your situation, what's the plan? I don't believe in New Year's resolutions. You guys know I don't believe in that bullshit. It's bullshit. Because when I ask you about your New Year's resolution at the end of February, you'll now tell me it's no longer New Year. You're in the year. Have a plan. I'm still recovering. But yeah, on the 1st of January, I was doing my vision board. Yeah. I took down all the cards from 2021, ticked off all the things that I'd achieved over the year. Things that I'd ticked stuff anyway within the year, but really ticked some stuff off. And then I started focusing on what 2022 is going to look like for me. What I'm going to manifest into 2022. What is my plan? Now, another reason why I was upset when I had COVID was because one of my plans was I'd updated my CV. My CV's good to go. And I have a Rolodex of contacts, a Rolodex. Because over the last year and a half, I've been approached by so many different organizations, so many different agencies, so many different people. And I have filed all their contacts away. And this was the opportunity for me now to, when I'm thinking about where I see myself in 2022, where I'm trying to take my career, what I'm trying to do, what the plans are, part of that is a new contract, you know? And my industry is booming, it's doing very well. And I thought, okay, well, you know, this is the longest contract I've had. I've been here for over a year now. And I've stayed here longer than I intended to for various reasons that will become apparent during the course of this podcast this year. And now I feel like it's time for me to kind of see what's out there for me. I know the peak of the day rate that I've been able to achieve. I know so many different things in terms of my career and what I would look for in the next role. So for me, my plan is to spread my wings and to have those conversations. So that didn't happen. I wasn't able to send out my CV, but I can send it tomorrow. I can send it today. That's completely up to me. But when I look at kind of the trajectory of my career, all the experiences I've had, all the amazing places I've worked, and the money I've made, what's my next step? And this is what I think is the difference between having that anxiety about returning to work and actually formulating a plan so you can temper that anxiety. I think you're always going to be slightly anxious anyway, but there is nothing more empowering than when you have a plan. Because when you have a plan, you hold yourself accountable to take yourself away from feeling anxious. And I think that New Year's resolutions is bullshit because it's only valid insofar as the new year is fresh. But having a vision board is a plan for the entire year that you get to see, you get to visually attempt to manifest through actively doing certain things to make those manifestations happen. You see, if you are the architect of your career, then you have to be able to roll up your sleeves and put the plan of action from your vision board into action. Your inaction will continuously exacerbate your anxiety. And I'm not taking away the legitimacy of feeling anxious. What I'm doing is questioning how long you're going to sit in that anxiety for. So 2022, for me, I have, I'm looking at my vision board now. I have a card. So I have certain cards, and in those cards, there's a title for every single thing. One of them is Toy Talks. One of them is personal targets. One of them is personal development. One of them is my traditional wedding. I have a card of gratitude, and I have certain things that I give gratitude for to the universe. And there's a couple of other cards as well that are quite personal. And this is sitting over my desk. And there is a podcast episode about vision boards and how I construct a vision board. That hasn't changed because it works. It works. It works for me. And you tailor it so it works for you. I think that it's so important that you're honest with yourself about things that you could have done better last year, but things that that are actively in your control to change the direction of your career this year. And you need to be selfish and you need to be centered in being able to manifest those things. Listen, I didn't wake up one morning and discover vision boards. Someone introduced me to vision boards. It was actually Kay. He introduced me to him. Everything I've gone through in my career is like walking on hot coals. I had to learn the bloody hard way. There was no podcast episodes to get me through at work. I learned the hard way. I had bumps and... Listen, there are things that I'm going to share with you about my 20s. I didn't do it last year because there was so many... Listen, there were so many things to talk about. I haven't actually told you guys, like when I stood on the table to resign one time, because I must have thought that I was Janine Butcher from fucking EastEnders. Or when I was humiliated in front of the whole team and frog marched out of... I was in my 20s. I didn't know what my rights were. And I want to be able to share those things to you guys so that you can see where I went wrong because of the lack of understanding, lack of knowledge, and lack of tools versus where I am now that I've had to learn from that. And then I'm giving you all the blueprint so that you don't make those mistakes. If you're making those mistakes that I made over 10 years ago, then I have to question what you wanted to achieve for yourself. You have to define, put it on your vision board. What does success mean to you? And use positive words of affirmation. I will. I am grateful for. I will achieve. I will. Your language needs to be like it's already happening, or it's literally happening in this moment. You have to be intentional about the things you want to manifest in 2022 and beyond. You've got to be intentional because you intend it to happen. So you can't be flaky about how you write this down. You can't be flaky in your approach. You can't be flaky in your plan to make it happen. Do you understand? Another thing that I've seen, so I obviously have received quite a few emails. I'm still going through my emails now. So I'm asking people just to be patient. Yeah, I'm going to get to your email. But there was an email that struck a chord with me. And it was a young lady, and I'm not going to read everything because it was quite personal, but she did say that I could share a couple of things on the podcast. And she says, Toya, why is it that people are shamed into believing that they're the reason why they have to cut people off as they proceed into a new year? And I thought that was quite a poignant statement. And it was poignant because of this. Don't get it twisted. Somebody who is always cutting someone off every day of their life, there's a level of toxicity associated with that. However, let it not go above your head that you cannot take everybody on your journey with you. In fact, it's impossible. This is your journey. You have to protect your mental health. You have to protect your spirituality as you walk into certain aspects of your life and you can't take everybody. And you can't take everyone because not everybody has the capacity to come with you. Do you not know that sometimes your achievements and your greatness and the things that you have achieved shakes the foundation of other people because it reminds them of what they haven't achieved? Are those the people that you're willing now to take with you on your journey when they are deliberately trying to sabotage your thought process by planting seeds of doubt, planting seeds of friction, planting seeds of negativity? Are those the people you want to take with you? You have to cut them off. And when we talk about cut them off, listen, cutting people off can either be having the conversation, because some people, I don't understand, people are always looking for closure. I tell people, don't look for closure with me because I'm not a door. Yeah? But for some of you, you want to have this big off conversation. I genuinely treat people like adults. So it's not every time I'm going to have a conversation with you. You are aware of your own madness and your own stupidity. I don't have to tell you. You know. Listen, everyone goes back into their home by themselves and you look at yourself in the mirror. That's when you're confronted with self. I don't have to tell you about you. You know about you already. But that's just me. Some people feel like they need to have that cut off conversation. Cool. Other people ghost people. Other people remove themselves slowly, and other people remove themselves slowly and then ghost. Everybody has a different way of cutting people off. But I hate when they say cutting people off as though there's an absolute way of doing it. There's different ways and there's different reasons why actually you should. No man is an island on their own, is what my dad used to say. And it's the proverbial man, okay? But this is what I'm going to say to you. Every success that I've seen in my life, in my career, in my businesses, has come from me being intentional and single-minded about how I approach those things. When I started the journey of my career, I don't have the same friends at the start that I do now. Because people go through stuff. People have their own lives to live. Sometimes you outgrow people. Some people are for a season. Listen, as the leaves fall from the tree, people will fall out of your life. That's just how things happen. Now, how you choose to magnify that, now that's for you. I'm not always people's cup of tea. I'm not. I had a friend that was years ago. He was very needy. Very, 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 very needy. And I didn't have the capacity or the bandwidth or the emotional intelligence to be able to be the type of friend she needed. Because I had my own issues and I had an inability to confront my own issues. So I couldn't now help her confront her neediness when I had my own issues that she was reminding me of. Do you understand? I couldn't be a good friend to her. And I said it to her. I don't know how to be a good friend to you. Because I don't have the capacity to be able to understand what you need from me because I don't even know what I need from me. We grew apart. She recently tried to come back into my life and she still has this neediness about her. But the way my character is set up, unfortunately, I'm not available for that. My friends, they know I will show up for them when they need me, but my friends are not needy. That's the difference. You have to also be aware of what your own limitations are in your own character. So, I'm sorry to say this, but there are certain characteristics and personalities that you cannot deal with long term. And you need to be honest about them. People say, well, that makes you a bad friend. No, I'm actually a good friend because I can tell you what I'm incapable of doing. My friends will tell you when they need me, I bloody show up. I'm there each and every time. But they are I've got very independent friends, very independent and very successful in their own right. Sometimes I don't even have time for myself. If I tell you, not if I tell you, I am going to tell you this year, all the things I juggled in 2021. It's not a joke. I know that the ancestors intended for me to have COVID so I can sit my ass down, so I can rest. Because last year was mad for me. And I'm going to share every bit of it with you guys. Because when we talk about success, the sacrifices I've had to make to attain the success, it's not a beans. So I don't have time for quote unquote people who are negative and who are consistently, willfully attempting to drag me down because misery needs company. I'm not prepared to do it. So there are some people from 2021 and before then that unfortunately we ain't going into 2022 together. It doesn't mean that I want bad for them. It doesn't mean that. It means that sometimes there is a shift and things change. And I know within myself, one of my biggest flaws in my character is my inability to know how to forgive. I have a big issue with forgiveness. A massive issue. And there is a whole podcast about forgiveness. I make strides to do better, but I have an issue with forgiveness. So because I have an issue with forgiveness, I'm very careful about ensuring that you are aware that you are hurting me. And if you consistently continue with it, that means you've willfully made the decision to do that. I will not be in unhealthy relationships. I'm sorry. I'm not prepared to do it. Because to make the commitment to stay in unhealthy relationships means that I'm now choosing to reinvest in therapy to deal with that. Yeah? I'm back in therapy, but not to deal with the willful choice to have toxicity around me. I'm dealing with other things. So that means I've got to pay more money to now deal with that for more sessions. No, I know what's good for me. I know what is good for me. So don't feel shamed. And I said to the young lady in an email, I said, don't feel shamed for knowing what's good for you. Don't. Because for too long as black women, we are told to cape. For too long as black women, we are told to be superwomen and superheroes. For too long. Who is going to be your superhero? Who is caping for you? Who is standing for you? Who is centering you? There comes a time and a point in life where you have to make the choice to center yourself. You have to make the point to be selfless. You have to make choices that are often quite difficult, but for your benefit. Because for me personally, I don't necessarily look at short term. I'm looking at the long term. I'm thinking ahead all the time. And this is why I'm always actively doing something, because I'm always thinking ahead. Always. So, yeah, welcome back, guys. Welcome to 2022, where the podcast is feeling to be lit. We had a great 2020. We had a phenomenal 2021, and I'm praying and manifesting an exceptionally great 2022. That being said, you know, it can't pass without me wishing the Toya Talks podcast a happy second birthday, which was on the 1st of January 2022. You guys have fundamentally made it possible for me to turn up for each and every one of you every single Tuesday. You guys have done that. Because you guys share with me how you've used the podcast. You guys share the podcast. You guys allow the podcast to be transformative in your careers. So when you do that, you are reminding me that not only am I walking in my purpose, that this is a platform that is very much needed. You guys allow me to pour into you and to share with you some of the things that I have gone through or I go through. And that in itself is therapy as well, because it tests everything that I truly stand and believe in to be able to teach you guys. And that to me is the biggest blessing. And I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in, being consistent, being dedicated, being my marketers, because you guys are sharing this podcast. You guys are sharing it internationally as well and domestically. Can you believe I've not uploaded for 2 weeks and I've been charting in Uganda, Hungary, Colombia, to name but a few countries. Like, I wouldn't be able to do it without you guys. You know, there was a point in the podcast where I thought I would need brand sponsors to be able to do this podcast. I thought I needed it. In my mind, I thought, right, in order for the podcast to be able to reach as many black women as possible, I'm going to need brand sponsors. I'm going to need a marketing team. And actually, I can testify, sit here and say, over the last 2 years, you guys have been my biggest marketers. I don't need a marketing team. You guys are it. Because you guys share it. You guys talk about it. You guys talk about the podcast and the things I talk about in your group chats. You guys do that. That is what I want from the podcast. I want you guys to be in situations and think, what would Toya do? I love the fact that you guys have been re-listening to previous episodes. I am very intentional about the summaries of each episode, so that even if you don't have the time or the capacity to listen to each episode, you guys can pick and choose and make an informed decision about what episode you're going to listen to. I put the information there. And to be able to pour into my community for the greater good of my community, so that you guys can all attain success and understand the blueprint as I have used it, that to me is the most fulfilling thing. There were so many things I wanted to talk about towards the end of last year. You know, the Breenie Lee and Kojo situation. So I'm going to save that for another episode. Megan Good divorcing her husband. We need to talk about that. We do. Because when people hold themselves out to be relationship gurus, but their relationship ain't relationshiping, we need to have that discussion. There is no point going to take financial advice from somebody who talks about financial freedom, but is not financially free and doesn't understand financial freedom because they don't exist in it. I'm able to deliver this podcast here and talk about the success of how to be successful in the world of work, how to navigate it, because I've lived it. I lived it, I'm living it, and I want you guys to be better than me. Do you understand? This year is the year of reckoning, where I'm literally going to tell you guys things this year that happened last year. Your mouth will be open. I know for a fact it's going to be open. I walk the path that I teach, and that's on period. So those people who think that you can copy what I do, you're not authentic because you're not living it. And ultimately, what value can you give if you can't give people the tools to be greater than you? I'm going to leave it there. I do want to quickly mention that I had planned to do remote masterclasses, to add also some masterclasses to the website. And obviously, because of COVID, I haven't been able to do that. What I will say to you is give me a couple of weeks. Give me a couple of weeks, and all the things that I had intended that will happen the first quarter of this year is going to happen. I'm determined, I'm focused, and I'm envisioning the vision board that sits before me, and we're making shit happen. Okay? Hey! 2022, what's up? Also as well, I did share with you guys that, well, if you don't follow me on Instagram, you wouldn't know it. I did post a picture. I did get married last year. And listen, I don't even know where to start with that, but we're going to start with that. And I will be talking about in my vlogs about the decision to get married during a pandemic, finances versus wedding, what that looks like. Like, listen, I'm so excited. That also being said, you guys know I'm vlogging as well. So I've done retrospective vlogging. So bi-weekly I upload vlogs. So there is a recent vlogs on the At Home with Toya on YouTube. So go ahead and listen and watch. And I've uploaded 2 videos, obviously, to make up for the fact that I was unable to upload because of COVID. So go ahead and have a listen to that. There are so many things that have happened, even during COVID, that I have to share with you as well. So we are going to bring the litty fire content, as we always do. I want to thank each and every one of you for your love, for your support, for your consistency, and the ability to really embody the essence of what Toya Talks is, so that you guys are armed and able to go into the world of work and be able to navigate successfully, see where the potholes and pitfalls are, be able to swerve them, and be able to understand how to manage some of these difficult characters and personalities in the world of work to achieve your objective. When your objective has been achieved, understanding when it's also time to go to the next level, and what that next level looks like. It may be in your organization, it may be in a different organization, but success is accessible to each and every one of us. I'm sharing the blueprint. All right, my queens, I'm going to leave it there. And obviously, our kings who also listen to, because I know you guys are listening to shit. I don't know why I act like this. I'm going to leave it there. And I'm going to say, if you want to follow me on social media, as I've said before, I'm really active on Instagram. So my Instagram handle is Toya_Washington. If you want to follow me on my YouTube channel, it's At Home with Toya. Also as well, I am on TikTok, Toya Washington, and on Twitter, Toya_W. If you have a work-related dilemma, let's get into it. Yeah, email me, hello@toyatalks.com, if you want to book me to come to your organisation. Now, I don't know if I'm going to come there, but I could do a remote thing. Email hello@toyatalks.com. I am so glad to be back. I think you can hear it in my voice, can't you? And yeah, just thank you. Thank you guys for everything. And let's take on 2022 like we know we should do. Let's be focused, let's be determined, and let's be intentional. My name is Toya Washington, and you have been listening to the first episode of the Toya Talks podcast 2022. Happy New Year. Take care of yourselves and each other.